What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesFromTheCustomer. This story's called Free Magazines for Life. Almost. Years ago, in the 90s, when I lived downtown, there was a small grocery store, like literally 10 feet wide, sandwiched between two office towers, run by a cute little old Japanese couple. It was walking distance to my apartment, and the only place to get top-notch quality fresh fruits and vegetables without the hassle of going to a supermarket. He also had a magazine rack I would peruse for reading material in those boring pre-internet days. I would go daily, so I got friendly with Mr. Yi. His wife spoke little English, but would smile sweetly when she rang up your purchases. They were very hard working. The store was open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. One late Friday night, I stopped by after work for some oranges. I love me a big navel orange. There was a group of 5 or 6 teenagers harassing Mrs. Yi. They were making fun of her, mimicking her, and trying to confuse her, saying they paid with a 50, didn't get proper change, taking gum and other small items from the area around the register. Mr. Yi was nowhere to be seen. I was bagging navels in the fruit aisle a ways away, but closely monitoring the situation when Mrs. Yi caught my gaze, and her eyes were pleading for help. I am 6'5", 250 pounds, ride a motorcycle, so I wear biker boots and a black leather jacket, and have been told I can be a very imposing figure. I approached the cash register area, picked the loudest of the bunch of kids, and got in his face, telling him to stop, that he needed to stop his behavior and apologize. His friends started to encircle me in a menacing manner. I was a little worried I had got in over my head. The guy, whose face I was in, got wide-eyed all of a sudden from something happening behind me. His posse also was visibly deflating. Everyone was staring behind me. I slowly turned to see Mr. Yi emerging from the back room, holding the biggest and shiniest chrome handgun I had ever seen, pointing it at our group. Now, in Canada, average citizens do not have the right to bear arms, and as such, the only gun I had ever seen at the time in real life was on the hip of a cop. I found out later it was called a Desert Eagle. Just casually owning a 50 caliber handgun. It was almost comically large, especially as Mr. Yi was diminutive in stature, so he kinda looked like Elmer Fudd with a huge cannon. It had everyone's undivided attention. He screamed, "Get out!" And everyone, myself included, turned to leave. I put my hand on lead douchebag's shoulder and told him to return the items he had taken first. Every member of the posse emptied their pockets of the gum and lighters and candy they'd helped themselves to, put them on the counter, politely apologized to Mrs. Yi, and then exited the store in an orderly fashion. I was following them when Mr. Yi called after me to come back. He had to put the gun down and proceeded to thank me profusely for helping and defending his wife. She was crying and shaking my hand over and over. All the while I was thinking, with that freaking artillery, you don't need my help. Mrs. Yi opened the register drawer and started pulling out all the cash, meaning to pay me a reward. I put my hands up for the second time that day and politely declined. He still wanted to reward me, so I came to a deal with him where I could take the magazines home free of charge and read them, then return them the next day to be put back on the shelf. I was careful not to damage them or lose any inserts. No dirty mags, Car and Driver, Road and Track, Scientific American, Astronomy, etc. Kept that arrangement for about 3 years. He knew the ones I liked, and when new issues came in, he'd keep them under the cash register desk for me. Mr. Yi also taught me some simple Japanese greetings so I could talk to Mrs. Yi a bit, and she would just beam at me when I would greet her in Japanese. As the years went by, saw less and less of the Yis as they started to retire. Young guy, son, nephew maybe, started running the store. Before, when they had groceries, the magazine rack was big, but only had 2 or 3 mainstream men's magazines. Under new guy management, the dirty mags got more abundant and more hardcore. Then the normal magazines started to go away. Then the groceries started to go away. For about a year, he grudgingly still honored the magazine deal, but he didn't keep them under the desk. One day, there were none of the magazines I usually read, and asked him about it. He said he had stopped buying any normal mags and was expecting his, picture of the adult variety offerings. Also, the deal I had with the Yis had expired. I wasn't offended. It had gone on longer than I thought it would. or deserved, really. As the grocery quality declined, I stopped going as frequently. The last time I went, I was having a late-night navel craving, and I saw the store had changed to just row upon row of magazine racks covered with hardcore and specialty magazines. You get it. In the very back grocery section was a small table with 3 moldy onions and a withered-looking apple. Never went back, but drove by twice a day. Saw it on the news. Someone got knifed in it one day. New guy changed it to 24 hours, closed forever not long after that. That's actually really sad, because, like, you see all these old TV shows and, back when, I guess, I don't know, but when, you know, the big corporations and stuff started booming nationally, and you just get all these mom and pop shops closing down, and there's all these episodes of cartoons like, I remember in Hey Arnold's. No, that was Dunkin' Donuts. But like, there's a sort of sentimentality when it comes to mom and pop shops, especially if they've been around for a while. So to read this story of, you know, this couple coming there and starting a business, and it's amazing, and you have all these cool experiences with the owners, and you get to see them all the time, slowly just turning into what it is now, which is closed. All right, this story's called Update! Went in to get a screen replaced, and now we're getting a new phone. So last time we read that without the update in the title, basically. Oh boy, so this has since been resolved, and it all ended up being okay. Holy cow, though. Last I wrote, we had just found out that my husband's old cell phone was toast, and the fix-it place was buying him a new one. If I remember correctly, the manager that had been guiding us through this whole second half of nonsense told me that she'd be out and getting the phone to us the next day, a Saturday. I had a strong feeling nothing was going to happen over the weekend, and I was right. No texts, calls, or even an excuse for the silence. Monday comes, and I text her asking if we'll be seeing the new phone soon. She gives me this long list as to why she couldn't do the whole phone thing over the weekend. I never said it to her, but at this point, I didn't care what was going on with her. I didn't care that she was overworked or needed a mental health day. Don't make promises then ghost me. Here we are at Monday, though. She will try to get the phone that afternoon. So Tuesday happens. The phone didn't happen the day before, but today she'll get it. Finally, at 5 p.m., she calls me and says she finally has the phone, and says that the transfer of data, what they saved, shouldn't take long, and we can come get it whenever we're ready. She did offer to personally drop it off at our home several times. That just weirded me out real bad. I had wanted her to bring it to our local store so we didn't have to go into the city, but they haven't been exactly reliable, so my husband and I agreed to just go to the city store where she and the phone are. We get there, and we're told she's finishing up the data transfer. At least 30 minutes went by before I started to get mad. That same manager finally came out, and we met her for the first time. They were doing the data transfer and writing a receipt contract for this whole thing. What the heck? They had her writing a contract about how the business was at fault, and they bought a new phone, and that phone had a year warranty with the store they just bought it from. Just what? On top of that, she had no idea how this impacted the phone and its connection to the plan, because we still had the old SIM card, which they almost didn't give us and wouldn't put in the phone, thinking it would break the whole thing. It just sounded ridiculous to me. What should have been 20 minutes tops had now become an hour. After all was said and done, she tried to upsell products to my husband for the new phone. While she was offering the things at a good price, I found it to be a little tasteless. For those of you who gave me some great advice, it was, in fact, a new phone. We got the packaging and the numbers were all different. Best part, no one dared ask us to pay for anything. The last step was getting my husband's phone working, now that we finally had it back, and it seemed to not only have all the data, but also worked fine. Since we were on another family member's phone plan, it took some calls on my end, but I remote activated the old SIM card and it was back in full force. So for a total of 8.5 days, my husband had no phone. That all ended last week, and between that being overwhelmingly frustrating and some other life things, I kept forgetting to post an update. In the end, just know everything is okay, and we're never going back to that place ever again. Hey man, give them another chance. I'm kidding, you gave them like 85 chances, and they failed you. They boned you each time, so no, don't. It would just freaking be cheating on your husband at that point. This story's called, There's No Way They Just Did That Because I Watched walked in, right? Hi guys, long-time lurker, first-time poster. This is too crazy not to say anything about though, so here goes. So a few days ago, I walk into a small chain gas station in the Midwest, and I notice that not a single employee is wearing a mask. This particular company has promised that their employees will be wearing masks, so I politely ask for a manager's phone number. The cashier at the time said they were unable to provide that information, which is understandable, privacy and all that. So instead, she calls the manager on the store phone and hands it over to me. I talk with the manager about my concern regarding the masks, and he says that he will talk to his employees the next morning when he comes in. Sweet, problem solved. Nope. I come in the following afternoon to grab a drink before I head to work, and once again, out of 5 employees there, 0 are wearing masks. I get my coffee and get back in the car to drive to work. On the way, I call the corporate number and make a complaint. The customer service rep says she will contact the district manager for that store, and I leave it at that, thinking maybe now the problem will be solved. Once again, nope. Today, 2 days following the previous call, I once again stopped to get gas and a drink on my way to work. And upon entering the store, lo and behold, no masks again. On top of that, they seem to be getting a shipment. So there are 7 or 8 employees scattered all over the store. But this time, something different happened. Remember the employee that called the manager for me the first night? She was there. And as soon as she laid eyes on me, she hurriedly leaves her register and goes around, quickly and quietly saying something to all the employees. By the time I've grabbed my soda and am back at the register, everyone has mysteriously found their masks. Wow! This tells me that the district manager probably did contact the store, and they are now on the lookout for me, knowing that I'm likely the one who called in the complaint. When they see me come in, they put their masks on. I thought that seemed absolutely insane, and I had to be imagining that was the reason for what had happened. But I called the complaint line again. This time, the customer service rep seemed to agree with me on both issues here. She sent an email to the district manager and assured me that they will be checking the cameras, and any employees that were not wearing a mask would receive a second write-up. Apparently, the ones from the first corporate call had already been written up, which would explain the urgency with which the employee went around warning everyone I was there. We'll see if anything changes. I know the story seems crazy, but maybe the fact that I live in a town of less than 1,000 lends a little credit to it. I'm still struggling to believe it myself. Stay safe. Yeah, come on, guys and gas station employees. You should wear masks because you deal with a lot of people. Unless you've got one of those shield things, because I know my uncle, his gas station, he's got like a shield thing, and they don't wear masks over there because the shield, I mean, it's blocking all the pathogens. So this story's called Plague Vector at the Grocery Checkout. Let me start by saying I am generally very polite to cashiers. I ask how their day is going and thank them for being there every time I shop. But there is one cashier at my local grocery store I avoid. Probably early 50s with a fierce updo. My disdain for her started before Brovid. She would chat about everything in my cart. We're not buddies. I don't need to spend 5 minutes justifying the brand of pasta I'm buying. She would insist that my sons bag the groceries and then ask 3 times how many bags they used with, "Are you sure you counted that right, honey?" They're in their 30s. They're not trying to cheat Safeway out of 20 cents. Safeway. Then came Brovid. Masks required in the store, hand sanitizer at the doors, carts wiped down constantly, one main line from which an employee calls up the next customer in line, all things I applaud. I ended up in her line. The entire time she was scanning my groceries, she kept playing with her hair, twirling it around her finger, scratching her scalp with her 2-inch nails, and pulling her mask down to talk to me, still wanting to chat. About mid-July, I was shopping in a local drugstore, and another customer had pulled down her mask and was coughing into the air. I said, "Excuse me, but would you please pull up your mask?" The customer next to her turned around, and it's my favorite grocery store checker, with her mask around her neck. She started yelling at me. Yes, yelling. Store personnel came over to see what was going on. "You can't tell me what to do! It's people like you that are destroying our American freedom! There's no law that says I have to wear a mask!" I said, well, the county health department and governor say you do. More screeching about what a freedom-hating bimbo I am. I stopped shopping and left. 2 weeks later, I'm back in the grocery store and getting funneled into her checkout. I see her and loudly say, "Nope, I do not want that checker touching my groceries." The traffic director takes me to another checkout, but asks me why, so I tell him. He asks if I will repeat this for a manager, and I do. I told him all of it. The hair twirling, the lack of a mask at another store, the screaming. I don't know if she still works there. I haven't ended up in her line or even seen her there. I don't care. Screeching plague rats don't get to touch my groceries. Ha! I love it. Plague rats everywhere. I do find that in a lot of rural places, they just don't care. And honestly, like when I went to Wyoming, nobody wore a mask there. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest. I got sucked into that sort of carefree mentality. And there's like 5 people living in Wyoming anyway, so like, what's the likelihood we get it? This story's called, "She actually got on loudspeaker just to be rude to her employees." So I was at the store just grabbing some last minute items before heading home, and the store was, as always, packed. Lines went from the front of the store to all the way to the back. Customers were pissed, and while I waited in line to buy my 2 items, I could hear multiple people complaining to the cashiers. The 2 cashiers were very, very polite and radioed for help. 5 minutes went by, and they radioed again. After the second call, a new voice comes on the loudspeaker and says, "Ladies, it's just you 2 doing registers like I already told you. No one is coming to help. Figure it out." One of the cashiers groaned and explained that was the manager and that she always does this. That was a woman's voice, guys. The manager was over in the next aisle, stocking an already full candy aisle. I've seen this manager hop on the register before when there were less people in line. I frequent this store, so I know she could have helped them. Instead, she chose to get out the loudspeaker and, in an "I told you so" voice, made fun of her staff for calling for help. I did call the customer service line to complain. Hopefully they do something, because I don't even work there and I could feel the hostility rolling off of that manager. I have never in my life complained to a corporate company, but I had to after witnessing that awful display of management. Get out of the freaking aisle and talk to your team in person, not over the loudspeaker for the whole store to hear that you refuse to help out. I agree. Helping your employees is important so that they feel valued and loved. All right, that was too soft. You gotta hate them and spit on them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.